Welcome back to another episode of Picking Up the Pixels RPG Love. I'm your host, Boston, and joining me as always is Musum.
Hello.
Quick plug here for patreon.com/E1M1. Moon would always say the ones are numbers. $5 a month tier gets you everything. All the cool behind-the-scenes, early access, exclusive, uncensored stuff. All of that is over there. Remember, it's $5 a month, not per week or not per episode or anything like that. So you get, it's like 2 or 3 episodes a week of stuff, at a minimum there. So you get a ton of early access and really cool stuff over there at patreon.com/E1M1. Musum, what have you been playing this past month?
Handful of comfort food games and
Perfect.
one new game. So
Oh, okay.
let's blow through the comfort food ones.
All
And
right.
which, by the way, I should mention the theme of my month of gaming is John forgets how the games he's playing works,
Okay.
and makes them way harder than they
Okay.
need to be. So, so first up on that list is Halls of Torment. This is the infinite. I don't remember what it's called.
Bullet Heaven.
Bullet Heaven. Yeah, we'll go with those. Still a great game. I've been going after a lot of achievements, and I noticed like there's this inventory thing called a mark, and I hadn't gotten a single one. So I dug into the I don't know what to call them. They're kind of like skill trees. You get like a big map of goals to achieve, and you get them for each character and each level, and then some general ones for the games. So on the character ones, you have to beat get to I can't remember what they call it, but it's like a difficulty 3 of the level. So once you beat the level, and by beat the level, each level's a half hour, and then the Lord shows up. And
Oh, okay.
when the Lord shows up, all the enemies disappear, and then you beat him, and then you've beaten it. You unlock a difficulty mode where it keeps ramping up, and it levels up as you go.
Oh, okay.
And it maxes out at 5 difficulties. So once you get to 3 difficulty with a character, you I thought I would turn my phone on silent and not break the podcast. Okay, there we go. Once you break 3 difficulty, then you unlock the mark for that character. And what that does is you get to equip that character's skill, and it changes it adds their power-ups to your level ups.
Oh, interesting.
So, funny story is the majority of time I had played this game this month, I had turned off auto attack, and so my character was just using their secondary attack and items they found, and I didn't realize it.
Okay.
And I was like, man, the updates to this game made this super hard.
That's right.
And
They really ramped the difficulty, man.
and I was really confused with the mark system. I was like, is it replacing my attack? I don't know if I
Right.
want it to do that. And it was literally a couple days ago. I was looking at the menu options. I was like, oh, that's right. There was a character who had a goal where I didn't use their main attack for 2 minutes or something ridiculously low like that. And that happened a long time ago.
Right.
Turn that back on and just flooring everything in sight. But now it's cool because I can choose like I want to say the sorceress who just like does chain lightning everywhere, and
Ooh,
then
yeah.
I can equip the beast huntress's dog. So I have a friendly dog walking
Ooh,
around,
fun.
beating stuff up for me. So I still like this game. It has it got glitchy for a while, and it stopped. Like it was glitchy in a way where it was crashing.
Oh.
And it was crashing like when I beat a level.
Oh.
But it somehow, like I guess the developers were aware of this because I wasn't losing my unlocks or the gold I got or anything.
Oh, that's lucky.
Yeah, it's because it happened a lot, and I would have stopped playing the game for good had it not worked that way.
Oh, for sure.
Um, but it seems to have stopped. And hopefully it is permanently stopped, and hopefully they release this on consoles because I think they're going to make a fortune because this is such a good game.
Yeah, it's funny because every time I see this game, I keep forgetting about it because it's not on consoles. But I loved Diablo 1 and 2 as a kid, and this really is what if Vampire Survivors looked like Diablo 1, which is like exactly the game for somebody like me. So I'm is it still in early access, do you know?
I don't know if it technically is or not.
Oh, okay. Because I
Because
know
they're
it
up
was
to
for a
like
while.
a dozen characters, and they've released. I I mean, they've been doing updates like monthly or every 2 months or
Oh,
so,
nice.
and they're all pretty significant. I think they've released all the levels they're going to, so they got to be getting close.
Yeah, I really do hope once it's out of early access that they do bring it to console, because I think this seems like a there have been a lot since Vampire Survivors got so huge. There have been a lot of games like this that have been coming out, and some of them are good, like this and Brotato and a bunch of that, like Spear Hunters Infinite Horde that we played on We Rogue Like It, that are really good. But I feel like there are just a ton of them out there that are just kind of fine. Like they don't get the core gameplay loop of this subgenre, and it seems like this game kind of nails the like one more run, one more level. It's only 30 minutes. I'll just do one more, like that kind of that
Yeah,
thing for this game, this genre.
they play with the mechanics in such cool ways too.
Mm,
Like, whereas like Vampire Survivors, you're always kind of overpowered. In
right.
this one, you're really not. You're really kind of. And granted, my perspective is that of someone who wasn't using their main weapon for the last month. So this may be wrong,
Right.
but it's there's a bit more strategy to it, I feel like, than
Mm,
just picking the right level ups. Like, the first level, there's some items you can kind of there's like some challenges in the level that you do that gives you items that benefit you against the lord of the level.
mm,
Uh, you aren't gonna have like a dozen weapons at once,
right.
and
You're not
they don't
filling the
really,
screen with bullets.
yeah.
Yeah.
And your character's main attacks and things are good, and the equipment system's fun, and it's fun, finding stuff and playing with different equipment builds to see what benefits what character.
Mm,
But I adore this game, and I think it's great on Steam Deck, aside from the crashes.
right.
Um,
Yeah, it's kind of perfect
it
for a handheld like that.
Yeah, yeah. So again, can't recommend it enough.
Yeah.
So next one, I'll be quick. It's Mass Effect 1.
Mm.
Um, I am falling out of love with Mass Effect 1. I'm so ready for Mass Effect 2. Granted, when I loaded the game, I'm kind of on one of the worst missions, in my opinion, in Mass Effect 1, and that is the Thorian mission.
Okay.
Um, because it starts out great where you're at that corporate research planet and kind of digging into their dirt, and
Oh
then you
yeah,
drive
yeah.
out. Like that part's great, and then you drive out into the big highway areas, and like there's literally like it's so long. It is way too long.
Yeah.
Because you have that part, then you run into the colony that's taken over by the Thorian, and then you have to go break into the Exogeny research facility, and then you have to go back to the colony,
Yeah.
and it is
It's like
just like when,
two missions mushed together. And like
yeah.
the middle part is you'd cut some of that out and be like, yeah, that was a pretty snappy mission.
Yeah. Like honestly, I wish the whole mission was just the corporate stuff because that stuff
Yeah.
is it's entertaining and it has some good like moral quandaries and the Thorian should have just been its own thing in its own world, but
Yeah.
it's fine. It's fine. Anyway, so I basically only made it through the Thorian mission in about 20-minute play segments because I'd load it, realize what mission I was on.
Right. And you're like, ugh, God, okay.
Yeah. Well, it's like when you go to fight the colony, you're like, okay, now I got to use these gas grenades on them, or they'll
Right.
die and everyone will be mad at me, and it's yeah, it's just annoying.
Yeah.
So the next game I played, it is called Free Stars: The Ur-Quan Masters.
Okay.
So this is Star Control 2, is
Okay.
what this is. They ran a Kickstarter for a sequel to Star Control 2, but now they are calling it Free Stars. And I'm assuming that's because they don't there's something weird going on with the rights, and I don't really understand what, because the company owns the rights now, put out a Star Control game 3 or 4 years ago that I own and I've never played. I've always meant to, but they were not allowed to use the characters or any of the alien races from Star Control 2.
Oh, okay.
And so I guess these are the original Toys for Bob guys that made the game.
Mm.
And they're allowed to use all that stuff, but they aren't allowed to call it Star Control.
Okay. It's one of those horrible rights things where it's like, well, I have these parts and you have those parts, so you can't. It's like, oh god, okay.
Yeah.
Sheesh.
But I started a new game on that and have been playing it a bunch. And I still really love this game. It is a, if you've never played it before, it's probably a little hard to go back to, honestly. It's because you're like Mass Effect takes some inspiration from it because you're in the spaceship and you're flying around harvesting minerals, and you are recruiting alien races to be in your ship fleet and upgrading your ship. Like it's got a lot of things going for it, but you have to have a clue about where you're going and what needs to be done. You have 4 years in-game time to beat the game, which seems like a lot, but I'm like 2 years into the game and I know where I'm going.
Right.
Like mostly, and you can find a good walkthrough and stuff, and the general strategy is you want to find some rainbow worlds, which gives you a certain currency with the space trader, and then the space trader gives you a bunch of upgrades to your technology available to upgrade your ship and your technology for your lander, so it can be more protected when you get minerals on worlds. But the writing is fairly delightful, maybe a little male pervy in some areas, like
Sure.
with the whole siren race. It was a different time. No.
Yeah, like very much of that era of like,
Yeah.
only boys are playing computer games.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the siren race, they're all in Princess Leia outfits, and they're racing females, and
I
their
gotcha.
ships maybe look like an adult device.
Right. Leaning all the way into it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And some of that is humorous, but like I acknowledge, it's purely mainly for males.
Right.
But the rest of it is fantastic. You have this alien race called the Thordash, who their entire society is based on might is right. So if you blow up enough of their ships, they'll join your fleet.
Okay.
You have another race who worships a god who, it turns out another alien race is pranking them because they have a hyperwave broadcaster. So they just go into their system and tell them something, and then they believe it.
That's great.
They have another race that is perpetually depressed. And they won't help you unless you fix their Ultron device. There's just, there are probably a dozen alien races in it, and it's a good game. But if you're new to the game, then look up a walkthrough.
Yeah.
But it's free. It's free on Steam.
Oh, nice.
Works pretty well on Steam Deck, even though it's just a community control system. So anyway, I'm most of the way through that game. There's only a couple things left to do, and I've mostly kind of already did all the stuff that I wanted to in the game, so I'm not sure if I'll see it through or not.
Yeah.
But that Kickstarter for the sequel kind of got me going, because the Kickstarter looks an awful lot like the original game, and
Ooh, all right.
it can just be this with some quality of life upgrades. Like,
Yeah.
man, it's gonna be good.
Yeah.
Okay, so now to the actual new game I've been
Okay.
playing. It is called, or new-ish, I think it came out in the last half year. It's called Wantless, Solace at World's End.
Okay.
This is a game that a Facebook advertisement got me on,
Oh, okay.
if I'm being honest. Like, I usually ignore those, but it was like, it looked kind of like Shadowrun, honestly. It's a tactics-looking game. So it's, I think $18 or something like that. So I looked up some reviews and it sounded like people were liking it, so I got it. Um, so you play a doctor who goes into people's psyche to relieve people of their wants.
Okay.
Um, and people pay you for this service. You're not like a government agent or something. And you provide this service on a boat you own called the Afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't quite understand where the story's going because I was stuck on this game for about a week and a half, maybe longer, because I forgot about one very important mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I really like this game quite a bit. Like the artwork's really cool and the gameplay mechanics are really fascinating. All your abilities you use in battle are comprised of like 3 to 4 components.
Hmm.
And when you're on your ship, you can flip those components in and out. So each thing you do costs AP in battle. So one of the components is how much AP does it cost and how many turns does it take to recharge.
Oh, okay.
Uh, and your character has like a skill level. So if you do something like ultra powerful that recharges really fast and costs no AP practically, then your character may not have the skill level to use something like that yet.
Mm.
They have another component which dictates where you hit. Are you hitting in front of you? Are you hitting diagonally? Do you have a couple squares of range?
And from a
Um,
gameplay perspective, this looks like a kind of grid-based, turn-based XCOM sort of thing.
it's it is grid-based tactics.
Okay.
I don't know that XCOM would be the one I'd compare it to.
Gotcha.
Because there's no like you do have whenever you first enter a room, enemies don't automatically see you, and you have
Mm.
some kind of benefits there, but there's no half cover or cover mechanics or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
I honestly don't know what to compare this to
Hmm.
mechanically. Like you have 8 AP, and if like the more AP you spend, the more the enemies get to do on their turn, and they always get
Oh, interesting.
one more AP than you do. And if you use all your AP, then they get like another bonus AP.
Oh, geez.
Um,
Okay. Wow, that's interesting.
yeah, like you yourself can get bonus AP for doing certain things, and I haven't quite figured out what. It seems to mostly be related to I hit an enemy and they got knocked back into another enemy and they both died, or you killed multiples in one time, or did some sort of chain reaction thing.
Right. So you get a little bit of a bonus.
Yeah, like each level also typically has memories that you can save for the patient. So if you're watching the video screen, that thing the enemy just destroyed, which was kind of a turquoise glowy thing, was a memory.
Oh, okay.
Um, Memories all provide different benefits to you if you get to them first. Um, but they also alert all the enemies that you're there and usually give the enemy some other type of bonus too.
Hmm.
Um, like back on your ship, the way the missions are structured is you have patients coming to you. So you have like a patient list and you choose one and they're different difficulty tiers and they reward you with different components or different equipment. Um, it's I think it's a really cool game. The mechanic I forgot about is you have an item that when you die you can use and it will resurrect you. Uh,
Hmm.
and I fought the first big boss on the game, and I fought him once the first time, and he completely floored me. And I'm like, I'll do this tomorrow. And tomorrow turned into next week, and by next week I forgot that was there.
Right.
Um, and the Steam Deck controls for this game are not like kind of perfectly integrated yet.
Hmm.
So I basically spent 10 days in game fighting that boss and losing, which I don't know. That may harm my game. It may not. I haven't started it over yet. It hasn't seemed to hurt yet. Um, but I don't know. We'll see. Um,
This looks cool. It sounds like they're kind of taking the kind of square based tactics grid thing and kind of injecting a little bit of more creativity in there with like spending and like the risk reward of spending more AP, which
Yeah.
is kind of like helping you but punishing you at the same time. I think sounds really cool.
Man, it's a really cool game. And they really just introduced kind of one customization mechanic at a time because it's gonna be really easy to get overloaded because I have like a new room on the ship. It seems like every unique guy I fight.
Mm,
I say that the first level, like it seemed like every other battle you were getting a new. Oh, great! Now you open this up and you have your skill tree that you can go down, and now you open
right.
this up and you have a shop where you can buy stuff, um, and like the level art is all like your guy envisions all the once as like gross insect monsters, but when you're out of the level in the ship, it looks like Shadowrun. Like
Oh,
it's
interesting.
a forever night cyberpunk looking place. Like
Right.
the dealer I just picked up is this really old guy with a mohawk, which I kind of love. Um, it's a really really cool game. And
Yeah.
I suspect I'm gonna keep feeling that way, even though I'm only a dozen or so missions into it.
Yeah, I'm looking at
And
the Steam page here. Again, the game is Wantless, Solace at World's End. It's only $18, and this is the studio's first game, Drop Rate Studio.
man, that is great. They did awesome. You guys did awesome. If
Yeah,
you're
they said we're a small studio
magically
committed to
listening to us,
developing RPGs with strong focus on character progression. We feed on loot, equipment, stats, talents, upgrades, and perks.
I they have all those things in this game.
Yeah, and it seems like Wantless they're focusing on 10-minute runs
Yeah,
based on their Steam page, which is that's cool. That's a cool idea of just having like kind of more bite-sized levels.
yeah. Oh, man, that's the other cool thing about the level. So levels are that short, but after you do a few levels, you unlock a mode where it's like you can actually go into their depths and try and get more loot and more experience and all that.
Oh, huh.
Um, but it gets harder.
Right.
So but it's cool to have that alternate path. And every time I see it, I'm like, man, I'm gonna regret this, but I'm gonna do this.
Right.
And but that was just my feeling at first because I didn't quite understand a lot of the game mechanics. And now that
Mm.
I do, it's like, okay, cool. I built a missile that will go like I think 3 squares away from me that has poison on it. Um, I have another skill that I built that goes 2 squares away from me that will hit in a cross pattern that pushes enemies.
Ooh,
Uh,
interesting.
and I just got an effect called Wound that causes damage each turn that I've equipped on that as well. Um, it's it's a really really cool game, and it's very very strategic, and
Yeah.
it's not easy, but it's not so hard that you're just losing a bunch. It's
Right.
just hard in that you might be about to lose a bunch.
Right.
But so far I really enjoyed this game, and I hope they kind of integrate the Steam controller or the Steam Deck controls a little bit more, and I hope they release it maybe on a console platform.
Yeah,
Because
I could see this doing pretty well on consoles too, especially at
yeah,
that price
like
point.
I suspect you would really enjoy it, Boston.
Yeah, it looks like something that I think would click with me. Yeah.
Like part of me wonders if I just forgot your other cast member who's not Moon Pierce.
The Nymph.
Eh, The Nymph. Oh my gosh, his 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 face was in my mind.
Right.
I expect the Nymph might enjoy this one
Right,
too.
for sure.
But I don't know how long it is. I don't know how much more complicated it gets.
Right.
But it seems real cool from the dozen missions I played.
Yeah. So that's Wantless, Solace at World's End.
Yep,
Yeah. It's cool.
and that is all I've been playing. So
Oh,
Boston,
okay.
what do you got on your plate?
Boy, I got a bunch of stuff here. It's some of these are pretty short. First off, Destiny 2. Um, so reminder that Bungie's moved away from their kind of previous seasonal structure, and now they're moving into episodes. Um, and each episode has 3 acts in it. and each act has story progression that happens every week for the first 3 weeks. They're like, I think they're like 6 weeks in total, like each act. So you gotta have 3 weeks of stuff to do, and then you have 3 weeks essentially off to either like continue to do the activity or do whatever other stuff. We're still doing stuff for the final shape, but they're kind of having that revolving of like 3 weeks on, 3 weeks off, enough time for people to get in and catch up or start playing and kind of get into the activity. I wasn't. It's hard to talk about the end of Act 1 here because the whole act is clearly building to something. Like there's the Vex, who are the kind of robot bad guys that you usually see in the game. They're acting weird in a way that like their tactics have changed, their strategies have changed, which hasn't really happened before. So not only is humanity kind of confused about it, but so are a lot of the other factions in the game. And a lot of the factions are trying to chase this thing after the end of the final shape, the big expansion that just came out. When we defeated the Witness at the end, which that's not a spoiler because that's we've been working on that for like 3 years. Something big happened. A bunch of pieces fell out of the Traveler. One of them landed on Nessus. They're calling it an Echo, which is why this season or episode, sorry, is called Echoes. So it's been kind of clearly working towards something. We had a big story mission that took place in week 3 to sort of wrap up Act 1. And we discovered, without really spoiling anything, discovered that there's somebody behind the Vex now who seems to be kind of pulling their strings and kind of unlike usual, because the Vex are like a collective mind, someone is having them follow their orders. So that was kind of neat, but by the time you finish the story beat and the quest is basically like, Act 1 is done, see you in a couple weeks for Act 2, there wasn't anything. I'm going to keep playing it because I like Destiny, but there's nothing like pulling you towards, there's no like next week on Destiny sort of thing, or like there's no like cliffhanger ending. They tried a little bit, but there wasn't anything like, oh I can't wait for Act 2 to come out for this thing to happen. Like we didn't even really see the bad guy. So I don't think it's outright like a storytelling failure or anything, but I would have a concern for like just the regular Destiny player that isn't coming back every week no matter what, that, you know, is there anything there to kind of propel them for 3 more weeks, or to say, hey, come back in 3 more weeks to check out Destiny 2, it's going to have new stuff. I'm not entirely sure. So I like where the game is going so far. And I like what the storyline is so far. I think it poses some interesting questions about the nature of some of our allies that I think is pretty rife for some interesting possibilities. But it's going to be interesting to see if they can stick the landing on this one. The community has also already sort of lost their patience with it, because the video game community, you know, video gamesters, you know, game players in general, have a problem with hyping themselves up too much with info that isn't really there. So like you'll see people like watching, you know, Elden Ring DLC trailer breakdown. It's 3 hours breaking down every frame of a 10-minute trailer, and they're like, I can't believe this thing wasn't in the final game. It's like, well, the YouTuber you watch just made it up, man. Like, it's just so like the Destiny community is like all up in arms because they thought that Bungie said that like episodes were going to be significantly different from what seasons were. And it's like, you shouldn't have expected that. Like Destiny 2, for right now is not done, but let's be honest, like largely in a pretty stable place. So expecting them to kind of reinvent the wheel right now feels like a thing that's probably not going to happen. So the community is a little bit of like, well, I can't believe they pulled the wool over our eyes. And it's like, you gotta play something else, man. Like, you got 3 weeks on to play Destiny, and then you should go check out Elden Ring. Has a new DLC out right now. You'll probably love it. So like,
I feel like they should be thankful they just put a bow on a massive storyline. Like,
like 10
that
years
never
of
happens
Destiny. Like,
in a
yeah,
was it games as service game? Like, that
yeah.
never happens
And they
ever.
stuck the landing. Like, it just, and to me, what I really like is, I personally was getting a little bit burnt out of the seasonal model where it's like you have 8 to 10 weeks where you're kind of slowly progressing through the story week over week. I like this where it's like, all right, you have 3 weeks, you got a brand new activity, you're doing a bunch of new stuff, and then you got 3 weeks off. So, like, I can go play a bunch of other stuff. And I know that makes it sound like this is my job or whatever. It's not really like that, but I like that I have these kind of smaller periods of focus for a game that I still do really love, but I've been playing for 10 years, like having more and more periods of kind of easing off on some of the content, I think is largely good. So I have faith in where they're going to go. I have some ideas of where this storyline is going to go that I think will be pretty cool if they do that. But if not, that's cool too. Bungie tells a good story in Destiny 9 times out of 10, so it'll probably be good. Next game here, the first Descendant. Speaking of live service games, this is Nexon's new live service game. And if you've played Warframe, this is Warframe. So someone else just made Warframe. Just Nexon.
Is this a single player? Is this a games of service? Is this a...
So yeah, it is a live service, game service. You got loot rarities, and you're playing multiplayer stuff. It's pulling in a lot of people whenever you're doing missions and stuff, which it kind of has all the trappings. A lot of people are saying like, oh well, it's a lot like Destiny 2. It has a little bit of Destiny 2 here, but it's like 90% just Warframe.
I mean, for years people were saying Warframe was a Destiny clone. So
for sure, yeah. It's like it's funny to kind of see the shoe on the other foot here.
Yeah.
It's fine. Like, I really don't click with Nexon stuff. I think there are way too many currencies, and there's way too many like places you can put mods and places you can put skills, and there's an okay tutorial, but once it dumps you in, I think it's called Albion, which is essentially their like Destiny tower. Once it dumps you in there, you have like 30 icons in front of you, not even on the map, just like in your UI of things you can interact with, and it's a lot. It's just a lot. My friend Bill Stafford and I played the week it came out. We played for, I think it was 2 hours or so, and the game did a pretty good job. Like, when you go start a mission, it brings in just random people from wherever. They are joined with you for the mission. As soon as you're done with the mission, they get kicked out of your party. So like, you're really there for just that mission. It does some interesting stuff, I think, for the missions themselves, where you go to like this little thing planted in the ground. You walk up to it. It shows you not only the items that will drop from it, but those item drop chances, where it's like, oh, if you really want this weapon, it drops 20% of the time. It's like a 20% drop rate. But it also tells you how long that mission's going to take. So it's nice to be able to go up to a mission and be like, this mission's going to take you 3 minutes. And that 3 minutes is a maximum. So there were a couple of missions where all four of us or three of us or however many people were in the mission, we like booked through that mission, finished it in like a minute and a half, got our loot, and we were out.
Nice.
And there are longer missions, like we did essentially what Destiny would call a strike, where you're kind of like going from point A to point B, doing some mechanics, defending a spot, kind of rinsing and repeating for 10, 15 minutes, and that stuff was fine, but it's okay. I feel like if you're looking for something that is really pretty mindless to just kind of shoot a bunch of stuff with your friends and not really have to think about it, this game is free and probably pretty good. But I'm not sure how much I would recommend it, because I feel like if you're interested in the first Descendant, you're probably playing Destiny or Warframe already. Or you're playing Diablo 4, or you're playing like any other loot game, like loot driven game, that is probably better. So like, I don't think this game is bad. It controls a little weird. The ADS shooting feels really floaty in a way that just doesn't like feel very satisfying, and I couldn't dial it in the settings or anything. It's fine. I don't get some friends, try it out. The tutorial is short, and then you're kind of like right into the game itself. But I'm not sure. I have it still installed in case like friends want to play it for an hour, but if I'm not going to go play it by myself. Let's put it that way. Like, I play Destiny. I'm not playing Warframe because I like don't need another problem like that in my life. But like, I'm playing Destiny solo the majority of the time. I'm not going to be playing this game solo at all. If someone's like, "Hey man, you want to play this for an hour?" Yeah, sure, probably. But if the game's like, "Hey man, come back to do these missions," I'm okay. I think I'm good. So. Next up, another free game that's come out here, Zenless Zone Zero. This is MiHoYo's newest game. That's the Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail studio. This is their third or fourth game, one of these games that is currently running. And this is a lot like Honkai Impact. So this is a real, Genshin Impact is their kind of open world Zelda-alike sort of thing, and Honkai Star Rail is their turn-based RPG. This is really a small arena kind of hack and slash action RPG thing. I think it's really good. The thing that I think feels the best is the actual combat, where you're hacking and slashing a bunch of enemies. You do enough stuff to kind of, at least in the early game, charge up a special attack. You do the special attack to do a big hit of damage on the enemy. The game wants you to switch to another party member. You kind of rinse and repeat. So you're always doing a bunch of attacks, like doing some juggling, switching very quickly between enemies to kind of keep this combo up and going in a way that looks really cool, because it's very stylish, just very flashy. But it feels really good to kind of get a combo going or get like a perfect parry, and then it come up with this big bar at the bottom where it wants you to switch party members. That person comes in almost like Marvel vs. Capcom, where they come in with an attack, like they're coming in attacking,
Yeah.
then they're doing a bunch of stuff, and you're kind of rotating out all these characters as you go. And it just feels really cool, and it feels super, super rewarding to kind of nail that down and get that flow. Even in the early game, even in like, as much as I played as maybe an hour, maybe a little bit over an hour, and it immediately feels really, really good. In a way that I think I didn't click with Genshin Impact as much as this. I think this feels way better for me to play. So I really like this game, and I won't be playing it because it's a MiHoYo game, and I really don't like their banner pull odds because it's still a gacha game at the end of the day, and I think their odds for their banner pulls are just they don't feel exploitative, but they feel pretty close to it. And like it's even I give him credit, but I think this is what sort of pushed me away from the game of, when you go to pull on a banner and it says, guaranteed like A ranking character after 8 pulls, and guaranteed S rank character after 120 pulls. And it's like
Ugh.
filling up a banner or like a bar, I'm sorry, that at the end of it says like free S rank pull. And I'm like, I'm out, man. Like I can't, whatever that RPG that you and I played forever. That I never remember. I
I'm not
never
gonna
remember.
remember the name of it.
I feel like
Epic Step.
yes, thank you. I really loved that game, but I feel like I'm still a little bit not sore, but like cautious of how deep I can get into a game like this because I love that. Like, it's just 8 more pulls, and maybe I'll get another A rank character that I have, and then I can infuse them together, and then, I can get to level 30, and then yada, yada, yada. And then, like, I have spreadsheets, and I'm in the subreddit, and I'm just like, I'm all the way in, and
Yeah.
I liked Epic 7 a whole lot, and I feel like I need another couple of years to, like, detox before I can get into another game like this, so...
Yeah, I've spent way too much money on gacha games, so
Yeah.
I'm like, this one sounds really cool, you talking about it, but it's kind of the same. Like, I don't ever want to I don't want to play another game where I have to continuously give someone money. I want to give them a one-time fee,
Right.
whatever that is, if that's $20, if that's $200, like
Right.
I'm negotiable if your game is good enough.
Right. Right. Yeah, and
Uh,
it's part like self-preservation for me too, because like I spent a bunch of money on Epic 7 too, and like for not for nothing because I was having fun, but it's still kind of like for nothing at the end of the day because I'm not getting any like physical thing out of it. So I know that I'm super susceptible to that sort of stuff. So I really need to like as soon as I feel that like that brain worms start chomping on the old gray matter, and I'm like, no, I gotta get rid of it. And with it being on the PS5 as well, which is where I played it, like that's my daily driver. I can't have it.
yeah. Yeah.
Gotta get rid of it. Sorry, Zenless Zone Zero. You seem pretty cool. You're pretty fun. I just can't play you. So, moving on here, Final Fantasy V 4-Job Fiesta. I finished my first run, which went pretty smoothly. And I have started my second run, which seemed pretty hard on paper and so far has been pretty straightforward and not super rough. I'll be honest with you, I don't know if I'm going to finish this run this year, though. I finished one run. I like to at least try and finish one run a year. I'm sort of feeling the burnout on Final Fantasy V in general. I'm not sure if that's because I platinumed the game was it late whenever it came out on PS5. Like I went through and I platinumed the game, and then I've sort of been distracted by the last 2 games I'll talk about here on my list. But I'm sort of feeling that kind of like, oh yeah, Final Fantasy, oh yeah, 4-Job Fiesta, like, okay, which is like not the the kind of thing you want to say for something you're playing for fun. So I'm kind of putting it on the back burner. It runs until the end of August, so maybe I'll finish my second run. But if I don't, I feel pretty okay with it. Like I still love Final Fantasy V. If I just do one run a year, that's fine. But I really can't burn myself out too much. So, but 4-Job Fiesta still cool. New version of the website, still really great. Much more helpful than the previous version. So if you want to play Final Fantasy V, the Fiesta is a really great way of kind of like focusing the run that you're going to have in that game. So go check it out, forge.fiesta.com. Real quickly, Shin Megami Tensei 5 Vengeance. Finally started that up, got that installed on the old PS5. I've played, maybe an hour. So these are really early impressions. Remember the joke I made a couple episodes ago about, like, I really hope this game doesn't have a thing of, like, are you going to talk to this girl or not? And then that decides the path of how this game is going to go.
Oh no.
Guess what it does?
Oh no.
Thankfully, I think Atlas is really smart about how they do this. So when you go through the beginning of this game, you're in, like, the modern day stuff. You get pulled into the whatever the hell this world is called. I don't remember. You get pulled in, like, right at that point, kind of before you name your character and before you, like, wake up and use your, like, school iPad and everything. You are in kind of a dream area, and there's a girl, like, hovering in front of you, and the game says, do you take her hand or not? And you get to choose yes or no. And the kind of voiceover in the game is saying, like, this, you need to make this choice wisely. And I was like, oh god, here we go. Okay, I'm gonna pick one. Let's see which one it is. So I pick one, and then thankfully the game just pops up with a menu that says you've picked the, like, whatever of creation. There's two paths: creation or vengeance. Creation is the original SMT5, the one that came out on Switch. Vengeance is the brand new path that they have made. And the game just comes up and says, hi, you've picked creation. This is kind of the original SMT5 experience. The other mode is kind of a brand new pathway we've created just for vengeance. Do you want to choose this path, or do you want to go back and make another choice? So you do get, in plain language, you're making this path choice. Do you want to stick with this or not? So I think that's really, really great, especially with it just being at the beginning of the game, because I'd hate for somebody to get 80 hours into this and be like, boy, sure I'm not seeing the brand new stuff in this version. I don't know where that stuff's gonna pop up, and I'd be like, oh yeah, remember 80 hours ago with, like, the girl with the hand? That's, sorry, man. So thankfully they do that right at the beginning. I picked creation because I never finished the original SMT or SMT5, and I kind of wanted to play the regular version first before you see all the new stuff. And people were saying, if you want to go for the platinum, which I probably won't, but, like, if you want to see a lot of the stuff in this game, you're gonna have to play both paths anyway. So it kind of doesn't matter which one you pick to start with, because you're probably playing the other one anyway. So I said, well, I'll just pick the original one then, because that makes sense to me. Of, like, we'll check out the original version, then we'll check out the, like, quote unquote fixed version after that.
Yeah.
I do have to say, this game looks so good and runs so smoothly. Like, seeing this game in 4K running at 60 frames is just so good. And, like, running around that first small sandy area that you start in, I was just like, yeah, man, this is the SMT5 I wanted to play, not the, like, kind of choppy mess that came out on the Switch. So I haven't played this too much because I haven't really had a lot of time, because I got sidetracked by the next two games I'll be talking about. But I wanted to at least pop it in, redeem the code, get all the DLC installed, get the, if anyone wants to play this and they wanted to play the safety difficulty, you have to go into the store and download that. It's a free piece of DLC. It's like, I wanted to get all that stuff downloaded and all that stuff installed and get the game started. So seems great. All the English voice acting is still really good. And it looks and runs and sounds really, really good. So SMT5, still good. Now, much smoother. So, loving it. All right. Final two games here. Dragon Quest 1. There's been a lot of chatter about the Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake that's coming out in November of this year. And I've always wanted to go back and play. I've played like Dragon Quest 11, 8, and 5. And I loved all three of those games. But I've always wanted to go back and kind of start from the beginning of the franchise and just go through in order and play them. And I'm not mad about people spoiling Dragon Quest 3 because it came out in like 88. So like we're well past the statute of limitations for anybody spoiling a like 35-year-old game. But I was a little bit bummed that people were saying it's a bummer that Dragon Quest 3 is getting the remake first because it's the end of the trilogy that started with 1. So like 1, 2, and 3 are all kind of part of the same trilogy. And 1 and 2 are getting HD 2D remakes as well, but those are coming out next year sometime. They're just saying 2025. And I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. And people were like, oh, and it's because of spoiler, spoiler, spoiler. And it's like, oh, well, okay, that's a bummer. So I thought, why not take this opportunity to just go play Dragon Quest 1 and 2? Because each one of those are fairly short games, and I'm just, especially for Dragon Quest 1, I just have a walkthrough open. I'm just following the walkthrough. Walkthrough says, hey, get to level 16 before you do this next dungeon. Sure thing, boss. I'm getting to level 16. You know, like really just kind of following it. And I'm glad I am, because Dragon Quest 1, more so than Final Fantasy 1, is a little bit inscrutable in the way that a lot of these games were for the time, where like you're expected to keep notes. You might be drawing maps. You probably have whatever game guide Nintendo put out for you, if you're in the States at least. You know, like it's a largely unguided experience. There's a lot of, the expectation is really on you of the player of go talk to everybody in every town, go explore everywhere you can possibly run into, you know, inspect everything that you can do. And that I think is really cool, but not necessarily the experience that I was really looking for in Dragon Quest 1 and 2. So I've been really happy that I've been playing with a walkthrough. I'm really happy that I'm playing the Super Famicom Dragon Quest 1 and 2 double pack, which is my personal recommendation for the ones to play. There are 4 sort of main versions you can play. The NES version, which I wasn't really interested in because I think that's a little too old. Because this game is very clearly inspired by things like wizardry. So you're going up to a door, and you can't just hit the A button and open the door. You hit the A button to open your menu and pick the door option, which opens the door. Like, you don't hit A to talk to people. You walk up to the person, you hit A to open the menu, you pick the talk option, that talks to people. So, like, very clearly a of the era kind of classic thing. The Super Famicom version allows you to hit X or Y. I don't remember which ones. Whatever the top button is on the ABXY buttons. And that will do a contextual thing. So if you're standing in front of somebody, it'll talk to them. Standing in front of a door, it'll open it. You know, standing in front of a chest, it'll open the chest. So I like that there's that kind of small quality of life thing. There are also the Game Boy Color version, which I wasn't really interested in, and then the mobile/Switch version, which I really tried to play the Switch version of this. I just think it looks so bad in a way that, like, the first two just look... I don't mind the art style. Like, I really don't. I think it's interesting how they kind of modernized Toriyama's art for this. It's just that the the character doesn't line up to the pixels for the background and the ground, and that like I just really don't like how that looks. It looks okay on the mobile version. I know a lot of people like the iOS and Android version, but I didn't really want to play this kind of longer game with touch controls. So I'm glad I was playing with that. I also installed a hack for the Super Famicom version that doubles your XP and gold gains, which is great because I'm just flying through these games and not grinding. Which I'm more, especially for these first two, I'm more kind of looking to get the experience of playing these without kind of going for the full thing and like going for the kind of unguided experience. I did finish Dragon Quest 1. I really liked it. It's super short, it's super snappy. The world is way bigger than I was expecting it to be. It's really easy to see how a game like this could be so influential for JRPGs and kind of Japanese games overall. It's really interesting seeing them kind of still figuring out Dragon Quest at this point and nailing so much at the same time. Like, the sound effects are still the sound effects you're getting in Dragon Quest 11. Like, especially like the level up and the saving, like the healing attacks, like all of that stuff. The Dragon Quest theme, like it's here in the first Dragon Quest. Like, you can see so much of this stuff was present at the beginning. But it's still weird to see one party member fighting one enemy at a time. And kind of getting that interesting push and pull of like, this is your only party member, so like they better not die, because if they do, you're getting kicked back to the castle and they're taking half of your gold, which still feels very generous, even for a game that came out in like 85 or 86, which is really interesting. But it's also interesting that to save your game, you have to go back to the castle you started the game at and talk to the king to save your game there. You can't just like save anywhere in the world map. You can't save anywhere in towns or anything like that. Like, that's just not a thing that happens. So it's interesting to see that they hadn't yet, I don't want to say figure out, but like the thing that I always see the Dragon Quest games are the game you play for a half an hour before bed. Where it's like, oh, you're going to get in, you maybe do a dungeon if you started with a dungeon. You do a couple story beats, you grind a little bit before you go to bed, you save your game, and you're done. It seems like they hadn't gotten to that point here yet, especially with that kind of saving system. So I did really like playing this. I liked seeing the foundations here of the genre. Like, it really is kind of laid bare here for in this game. So I moved straight on to Dragon Quest 2, which I can't even imagine. Dragon Quest 2 only came out a year after the first game did, and it is ludicrously bigger. Like, the world is like, you get a ship in this game. The world, the center of the world is the Dragon Quest 1 landmass, and that's only like maybe 10% of this map. It's so much bigger. You get 3 party members that you can control. You have so much more loot. You have so many more options. There's a lot more story here. Like, you're even starting as the descendants of the heroes of the first game. Like, you save the princess in the midpoint of that first game. You're playing as the descendants of those 2 heroes, like 100 years later. So it's cool to see this game that is so significantly bigger than the previous one. And this is really all I've played this past week, and I'm only now kind of approaching the legendary like Cave of Roan at the end of this game, that kind of leads to the final area. And I've been playing a bunch of this again with a walkthrough kind of sitting in my lap, metaphorically. And I'm having a blast with this too. Like it's really impressive to see how much bigger this game is and how much they seem to have really kind of taken to heart all of the lessons that they learned from the previous game. There's way more places to save now. You can't save on the map or anything, but almost every town you can save in. You don't just have to go back to your original castle. You get healing spells way earlier than you did in the previous games, or the previous game. It's weird though, because like items don't stack in this game like they did in the previous game, which is super weird. Like your healing items would stack in that game, but not in this one, which is odd. And you can see them kind of playing around with more interesting dungeon designs. Dungeons are way bigger and way more interesting and have more story beats in them. And it's just kind of overall a bigger and kind of richer and more interesting game. And it's really wild to start this game and have your party of one, because you just start with your hero, fighting against 3 slimes at the same time. And like it's this kind of widescreen display where the enemies are, as opposed to this square right in the center. So it's kind of fun to see them at the beginning being like, no man, this is a way bigger game. Like it's not just you versus one slime. Like you're fighting a bunch of these dudes at once. So it's really cool. I am enjoying this way more than I was expecting, because I figured this would be, you've been through this before where like you play an old JRPG or an old computer RPG or something and you're like, yeah, boy, that's sure an old game. That's
Yeah.
not gonna finish that, but I get it. But I'm looking forward to the end of Dragon Quest II and kind of seeing where it goes and seeing where everything happens, and really excited to play Dragon Quest III. Like I was talking to Gibbinator from the community, because he's playing through some of the old Dragon Quest games at the moment too. Just trying to figure out, like, if you look at Dragon Quest III, I had the same thing. Like, it came out on NES, I'm not interested in that one. Came on Game Boy Color, not interested in that one. I bought the Switch version because they fixed the kind of sprite scaling on that one. And also, I wanted to play the Super Famicom one, but the translation that's out there is like only really one of them. And it seems like there's a bunch of bugs and like translation issues. And I was like, all right, these 2 translations that are for the Super Famicom one are clearly using the old, like non-agreed upon terms for, like, they're calling it Fireball, and now it's Sizz, and stuff like that. Like, they're calling it like Lodo instead of Edric. It's kind of using all of the old terms instead of the new ones that the series uses now. And it doesn't have I know people feel strongly one way or another about it. It doesn't have that kind of like old English fun translation that a lot of the Dragon Quest games have. So I'm looking forward to playing 3 on the Switch for kind of all of that stuff, and then I'll play the HD2D remake when it comes out. But it was a really hard choice, because if anyone hasn't seen Dragon Quest III on the Super Famicom, I highly recommend going and looking at it. It's easily one of the most beautiful Super NES games I have seen, this came out after Chrono Trigger, which I didn't realize, and the art and the pixel density and the animations on the enemies and everything, it looks so good. Like, it looks ridiculously good. And it was a really hard choice for me to not say, oh, well, I'll just play the Super Famicom one for the next one, because of how good it looks and like how good it sounds and all of that stuff. But I am really shied away from playing that version because of the like progression and save corruption bugs that I've heard some people reporting on the translation. Because I don't want to get through, an 8, 10, 20 hour JRPG and then get to the point where it's like, well, your save is gone. It's like, well, I could just play the Switch version that is unlikely to have that experience and just kind of play that instead. It's like I'll be playing a quote unquote lesser version because it's missing some stuff from the Super Famicom one, but I think I'll be gaining a little bit of peace of mind there. So I'm surprised. I'm as surprised as anybody that I'm not only playing Dragon Quest 1 and 2, but I'm genuinely really, really enjoying them. And it's also nice to go back and play through so many of these games, and there's just a ton of resources out there of people that have made meticulous maps, and there's even like maps that have the spawn areas for enemies overlaid on top of them and all this stuff. Like, there's so many cool, good resources out there for these games that is making it a very smooth experience for me to go through and play this stuff, which I really appreciate. So that's Dragon Quest 1 and 2. I'm looking forward to probably finishing 2 this week and then hopping right on 3 and seeing how I go. And also sort of giving the side eye to 7 and saying, like, yeah, I'm going to play you, but that's a real marathon. It's a real marathon of a video game. So if for anyone wondering, I'll be playing the original PS1 version, not the PSP, Vita, DS, whatever the quasi remake is, where they kind of chopped out a whole bunch of the beginning of that game, because I know what the beginning of 7 is, and I think that's a thing that will click with me in a pretty real way. So I'm excited. So I probably won't be playing the games that I played already back through. Like, I really loved 5. 5 is an incredible RPG. I really loved 8. 8 is probably a really great place to start. I never finished 11 because I got to like however many endings, and the game's like, keep going, man. I'm like, oh my, for real? I don't know if I can. So like, maybe I'll start 11 back over. I don't know, but like, I would like to see the end of that game at some point. But like, do I start 11 back over? Like, woof. At least I don't have to play. No, I played 9 as well. So like, at least I don't have to play 5, 8, and 9. Because I played those, and 10, because 10 didn't come out here in the States. That was the like online MMO thing. So yeah, Dragon Quest. Who knew it was good? The entire island of Japan has been telling us, hey man, it's really good. So it's been kind of refreshing to play something that's like a little bit simpler and more straightforward, but also something that is so foundational to the genre that I love, and still being able to see pretty clearly, like, oh, this is why this game was so important. So it's cool. I recommend it. If anyone wants to play these games, check out the Super Famicom. I'm playing them through oh god, what is the emulator front end that's on Switch? Not on Switch, on Steam. God, I'm not going to remember. I'm not even going to open Steam right now. But I'm playing the emulator front end that everybody uses, because it's the easy one where you just like, yep, load this ROM, and it figures out what emulator you're going to use. RetroArch, sorry. I'm using that for the first time, which is like, it's fine. It's okay. I kind of don't like it, but it's fine. It configures my controller through my Steam Link automatically, which is like 9/10 of the battle. So like, it's fine. So, anyways, I blabbered on for a while. We are out of time, unfortunately. So we're gonna skip not a ton of like really big releases this month. Let's do it real quick. Final Fantasy 14 Dawn Trail comes out. Legend of Heroes Trails Through Daybreak, which I asked the Nymph recently about, like, hey, is that a really good place to start? It's apparently the start of a new saga. So if you've been interested in the Trails games, that's a good place to start. Dungeons of Hinterberg, if you want like a kind of romance visual novel action RPG, that's coming out. And One Piece Odyssey comes out on the Switch. And also, don't forget, if you are interested in the new JRPGs that are coming out for Switch, go watch the June Nintendo Direct. There's 6 of them there. There's quite a few, and it's not just like Dragon Quest 1, 2, and 3 that are coming out. But like there's a bunch of cool stuff coming to the Switch, and a bunch of them are JRPGs, especially Fantasian Neo Dimension, finally escaping the kind of the Apple Arcade hole that it's been stuck in. Anyways, that's the end of our episode. Thank you very much for listening. Musim, where can we find you online?
You can find all my stuff at linktree.com/John Musim. That's linktr.ee/JOHNMUSIM.
You can find all my stuff at campsite.bio/Jansten, JANSTEN. If you're listening right now, I'm doing a fundraiser for my website, Destiny Emblem Collector. It's destinyemblemcollector.com. You can check that out over there. At time of recording, I've raised almost $34,000 for this fundraiser. Just passed $150,000 lifetime for all of my fundraisers. So I'm approaching that $200,000 area there. So if you want to go check that out over there. If you like Destiny, you want to get some cool emblems, go check that out over there. And I think that's it. So we'll see you all next month. Bye.
Bye.